and feel that beat. Feel this for a minute. Let it rock a little bit. Let it rock a little bit. Woo! See, this is what we're missing. This is what we're missing with spirituality. This is what we're missing with religion. This is what we're missing with philosophy and higher sciences. You know, when these things first came out, they were always spoken of with the drum. The drum is that central part of human awareness because it's the drum that's the heartbeat. The drum represents the heartbeat and stringed instruments represents the breath. So it's like with us, music is always part of what we're doing, always part. No disrespect to anybody, but it's when that Christian thing came in that all of a sudden the drum disappeared. Matter of fact, all music disappeared. And even though the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, all of these holy books, even though they are to be sung, originally they were sang, they were sung. And like the Ayurvedas, which is a form of Hindu medicine found within their holy books, the Ayurvedas was rhymed. The whole Ayurveda, which is a medical document about how to cure disease, it was written in rhyme. So we're bringing this out because hip-hop is ancient. What we are calling hip-hop, like what we call hip-hop today, is an ancient experience. And we're going to talk about that today. Welcome to the Temple of Hip-Hop. I am KRS-ONE. I am accompanied by G. Simone, Minister Sun One, Zinaru, it's on you, and everyone who joins us and have been on this call for the last 2 years. Those that are just joining in with us right now, let me also shout my dude Pascal One as well. Can't do this without him as well. And let me not get into name calling now, because now I'm thinking about everybody that said Joseph Sanchez, God One, Save One, Lifted, Desire, Ambitious, and the whole family. I mean, let me get off these names. But you all are in my heart, and that's why I mention this, because like I always say, there is no me without you. And this is what we're going to talk about today, the seriousness of the Temple of Hip-Hop and its mission, and the seriousness of how we got to come together to make that mission work. So let's get started. That's right. If you don't hear that boom bap, you ain't in a real hip-hop ministry. You know, I say every week the Temple of Hip-Hop is a hip-hop preservation society, ministry, archive, school. You know how it go. And our main purpose is to preserve the original intent of hip-hop. And the original intent of hip-hop was peace, love, unity, and joy. We modified that to health, love, awareness, and wealth, which we feel are only achieved through the mastery of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing. So here we are at the Temple of Hip-Hop, and what are we discussing today? We're discussing our mission, just so we are clear with what's going on. Now, for the last couple of weeks, we were discussing philosophy. Last week, we talked about God and divinity, and for you not to get so hype into, when you say God, you're thinking a man in the sky. We went over that last week. When we're thinking divinity, we're thinking of, clouds and something other than yourself. We dealt with that too last week. But this week, we want to come further with this now. And the idea is that this is why we are called a temple of hip-hop. Because we represent the spiritual body of hip-hop. We are the first to do so. you know, most hip hoppers are spiritual people. Most of us are spiritual people, but we don't really profess that spirituality in the way that we actually should. We don't, you know, like we say we're spiritual, but then we go to the Christian church, or we're at the mosque, or we're at the Hindu temple, or we're, you know, doing something else, maybe at the Masonic temple, or, you know, something else, Kemetic temples, you know, Moorish temples. We're all spiritual, but we're all fragmented. And what the Temple of Hip Hop attempts to do is bring us all together. You don't got to give up your religion to be part of this. But at some point, if you're going to get serious about the truth, you're going to arrive at this. All serious seekers of truth eventually arrive at the Temple of Hip Hop. And I'm not saying that as no bragging or, you know, like everybody say, well, my religion is the only way to get to this and that. We're not even pushing that. What we're saying here specifically is that if you are about truth, if you are serious about truth, you will arrive at the Temple of Hip Hop at some point. Matter of fact, let me give you a little example of this. The example is, I would come out and say, hip hop is the salvation of the world. And everybody would say, what the hell? I can hear others, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, everybody. What do you mean that hip hop is the salvation of the world? Well, if we are dealing with truth, this is the key. If we're dealing with truth, not your belief, we're not questioning anyone's belief, we're not challenging anyone's faith, none of that. This conversation is outside of that. This conversation is about truth. Now, if we're dealing with the truth, the first thing we're going to realize is that God is on the side of the oppressed. Marinate for a minute. God is on the side of the oppressed. Justice is on the side of the oppressed. Divinity, restoration, resurrection, salvation is on the side of the oppressed. These principles do not apply to those who are doing the oppression. Now, if we're going to be dealing with truth, if we're just dealing truth, that's all we're talking about here is truth. The truth of the matter is that hip-hop is created. Hip-hop, the population of hip-hop are the oppressed people of the world. Am I not speaking truth? The creators of hip-hop are the oppressed people of the world. The participants, most of the participants in core hip-hop. I'm not talking about those who buy CDs. I'm not talking about those who, you know, look online and make, stream music. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who really live the culture. Those who produce the culture are usually those who are in the community of those being oppressed. And I'm not just talking black. I'm talking about those being oppressed. We're talking hip-hop globally now. Every country you go to, the ones who are breaking, MCing, graffiti writing, and DJing and beatboxing, those are usually the ones that the cops is always looking at. They the ones who can't get an education. They the ones who can't get their job. And so now there is us. So first and foremost, if we're going to discuss truth, let us discuss the fact that God, justice, divinity is on the side of the oppressed, not on the side of the oppressor. The oppressor has lessons to learn. The oppressor has lessons to learn. Not that we diss even the oppressor. The oppressor is human. The oppressor is God's child too. So when you really arrive at divinity, there's no pointing fingers. There's no blame. There's only truth. And what is the truth here? The truth here is that those that claim hip-hop, Those that are part of the central condition of hip hop, those that are part of that, are also those who we find in the oppressed group. And in the oppressed group, you are innocent. This is the second part to the truth. If we're going to discuss truth, well, if I have no land, I don't control my education, I don't control the courts, I don't control health, I don't control anything in society, I have no leadership power over the movement of the society in which I'm in. In fact, the leadership of the society in which I'm in denies me access to these social institutions. They deny me education, deny me good health care, deny me proper foods, deny me justice. So if I'm living in an environment that is denying me my ability to move forward, then I am innocent of any crime that I may commit while living in this society. If we're going to discuss truth, I'm not blaming, pointing fingers, nothing. Just truth. Hip-hop is innocent. Innocent. Blameless. Hip-hop. And you may look and say, that's crazy. How can that be? Hip-hop is a gangsters, pimps, hoes. We running around. Of course we are. But guess what? In the sight of truth and divinity and God, in that world, we are innocent because we don't have no land. We don't have no courts. We don't have our own laws. The only way that you could say that a person is guilty of a crime is when they break their own laws. It is impossible to say someone is guilty of a crime if they break your laws or break a law foreign to them, foreign to their culture. In fact, if we break, here you go, if you break colonial laws, you are innocent. Because the colonists already raped, robbed, killed, murdered, kidnapped, and stole your resources. So on earth, the governments, in the world, the governments can say, you're guilty of crime. You stole, you killed, you lied, you cheated. You're guilty of crime. But in God's eye, the one telling you that is the one guilty of the crime, because the one telling you that is a colonist that invaded and robbed your space. So if we're really talking real justice, real justice, the slave is not judged the same way as the slave owner. The one being beat and starved and kept in ignorance is not judged the same way as the one who is beating and denying and holding back justice, education, health care, etc. We're only talking truth, and I want to bring it to you like this because we're going to talk this way throughout this particular lesson, and I want you to understand the importance of hip-hop as a spiritual practice. And the temple of hip hop as its house, as its shell, like what we are doing here. What are we doing here? We are announcing to the world that there is freedom from guilt. There is freedom from incrimination. When you join hip hop, or I put it this way, if you make hip hop your spiritual practice, you escape karma. Did you hear what I said? If your family member, your ancestor, or just even a recent family member, was a Klansman, by you joining hip-hop, you clean your heart completely of that ancestry. In fact, you lift up your ancestors because now that they're on the other side, they clearly see the error in their ways. Because once you're on the other side in spirit, the first thing people say when they get on the other side is, I didn't know. That's the first thing they say. Eye open. They say, I didn't know. Some become afraid. Some become saddened and depressed. I didn't know. But those of us that lived a righteous life, those of us that focused on peace, helping others, unity, joy, we get to the other side and we say, I knew it. I knew it. Now you got to ask, which one are you going to be? But right now, if your family member was a Nazi, you in Germany, your ancestors were actually Nazis. And not that all German ancestors were Nazis. But let's say, I'm using a broad historical example here. Let's say your ancestors was part of Hitler's group, early 30s, World War I, II, and all that. Your ancestors was part of it and believed in it. Now today in another time, nobody wants to be a Nazi. Oh, that's racism. Oh, they put, that's anti-Semitism. That's this and that. Well, if you want to relieve yourself of that guilt, if you want to relieve yourself of that karma, you should join those who your ancestors tried to kill. Now, these are broad examples, but they're real. The only way to receive salvation is to go to the people you hurt and ask for forgiveness. If I rape a woman, which I would never do, but if in fact I raped a woman, as a broad example, and years later I feel remorse for my crime, I feel bad about it, I can't go to my pastor, to my reverend, to the priest, to the imam, to the Buddha. I can't go to the Dalai Lama. I can't go to any of these people and say, years ago, I raped a woman and I'm feeling remorse now. Please forgive me of my sin. These people have nothing to do with it. You can go to a priest all day and ask for forgiveness. There's no salvation in that. I'm sorry. The one that you transgressed, the one that you did the crime against, this is the one you have to go back to. Find the lady again. Find the woman and say, remember me? And say, I am so sorry. I was young, stupid, immature. I don't know what got over me. It was the devil. Can you actually forgive me for what I did? Now you're on the road to salvation. And guess what? If the person you transgressed actually finds it in their heart to say, you know what? I'm glad you came here today and begged for forgiveness. I forgive you. You were ignorant. You were this. But I forgive you today, really, from my heart. I'm going to forgive and let it go. If you really come like that, the person who was transgressed and the one who did the transgressing both become divine. Did you hear what I said? Divine. Not just forgiven. Salvation comes over both of you. Healing comes over both of you. But if I go to the one that I transgressed and I say, please forgive me, and the woman says, no, what you did was wrong. I will never forgive you for murdering my husband, for killing my children. I will never forgive you for stealing from me that day that you stole. If the woman says that, you're done. Okay? You're done. Okay? You're finished. Because you have not gotten the forgiveness from those whom you have transgressed. But also realize this. The one who could not forgive is also done. Hardness of heart, resentment, bitterness, anger still resides within you. So both lose salvation, both are in hell or Greece. We went over that last week. Big up to the Greeks, I ain't dissing. But the point is that both are going to be in a place of torment. So the temple of hip hop comes with a new gospel that says, let us forgive one another. And this is not just words coming out of my mouth, because if somebody really stole from you, if somebody really murdered a family member, and if somebody really raped you, this is not easy. This is not, just words and philosophy. You got to actually forgive. Those that want to get deeper into the story, check out the story of Emmett Till. Those know that Emmett Till, a young man who was brutally killed and shot, beaten by racists, and so on. His mother had to forgive one of the murderers. It's a fascinating story. And she didn't have to forgive on some, I forgive you, and the cameras go. No, she had to come deep. They took her son from her. And the one that took the son, she had to forgive them, or him, really them, but I think it was an incident where it was a one-on-one. And she had to give the forgiveness. And you know how many people had to do that in life? Forgive the ones that robbed them, forgive the ones that murdered them, forgive the ones that cheated them. And why did they do that? Because they realized what the truth is, not what your emotions are. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. If I don't forgive you, I go down too. So is this unfair that you can just do stuff to me and I just have to forgive you? No, because you don't have to forgive, really. But here's the trick. If you are on a spiritual path, see, if you're just working every day and an atheist, or you putting your reliance into science, then fine. This don't apply to you. But if you claim to be spiritual, if you claiming, to be a devout whatever, then it is your duty. In fact, it is your privilege to have people diss you, because in their diss, you are gaining the Christ. You're gaining the Madhi. You're gaining hip-hop. You are uniting with justice itself. So, look at this. Only those who have been beaten, raped, robbed, kidnapped, enslaved, hung, burned, shot in the back, okay? Only those people can truly forgive. Nobody else has the power to forgive except the one who has taken the brunt of the crime. If we're going to discuss truth. If we're discussing belief, then believe what you want to believe. But if we're discussing hard truth, hard evidence, facts, if we're discussing real, only those who are victims of crime, only the victims of crime can forgive the criminal. Courts can't forgive the criminal. Priests can't forgive the criminal. Nobody can forgive the criminal except the one the criminal transgressed. In addition to that, the one who is a victim of crime is also the one with the moral authority to correct the crime. The criminal has no moral authority. That's the criminal. The criminal has lost moral authority. You've lost it because you have committed the crime. You have no morals. You don't know what good and evil is. You ain't on the side of right. You're a criminal. You're robbing, raping, stealing, shooting. This is what you do. So the criminal is not the moral authority if we're going to discuss truth. The true moral authority here is the one who has taken the brunt of crime and evil and sin. The one who's taken the brunt of it. Now, because we have no land yet, because we have no law unto ourselves yet, because we have no hospitals, no schools, no hip-hop hospitals, hip-hop schools, a hip-hop court of justice, okay? Because we have none of these things, we are innocent. We are under the tutelage, we are under the command of a whole different sect of people that we have nothing to do with other than the fact that they invaded our lands and took our stuff. Now, the world's justice will say that's justified. The world will say, I could be holy and keep your stuff. The world will say, I believe in God and God is with us and God bless America and God bless our troops and God, while I stand on Native American land, stolen Native American land with the blood of Native Americans in the land itself. Enslaved Africans still enslaved to this day. The prison system still is what it is to this day. But we're going to claim we holy. You see, when do we stop playing games with God? When do we stop playing games with real spirituality? Well, the game stopped right here. Because we are the oppressed. And we don't like it. You know, we don't like it. I'm not sitting here saying I like being oppressed. I would love to go to the bank and say, listen, I got something going on and I'd like $2 million. Can you help me? And they not look at my skin color or my zip code and say, oh, we don't have nothing here for you. No, I don't like that. But guess what? If the bank would like to escape its own sin, it's going to have to go back to the people it denied loans, ripped off, people that it ripped off and denied access to true economics. The bank is going to have to go back to those people and open up and say, okay, we got this for you, this for you, this for you. We're going to play by the rules. We're going to be fair. Can you forgive us for the last 200 years? Can you forgive us? And if we are divine, we will see it as an opportunity to become God-like. Because man can't do this. Man and woman can't do this. Man and woman are trapped in their emotions. They can't do this. Only gods can do this. Only a God can get dissed, beaten, raped, robbed, and then turn around and say, I love you still. Why? Because I'm God. Why? Because I'm not going to move myself from the principles of peace, love, unity, and joy, even though you are about sickness, hatred, ignorance, and poverty. Just because you about that don't mean I have to be. I stand on God. So you beating me, killing me, raping me, taking my resources, I'm still with God. And when you come for forgiveness, I am still God. So let us get serious about our hip-hop spirituality and what it really means to the world. Hip-hop is the salvation of the world. Name one religion that has not raped and robbed and invaded our people. I'll give you a minute. Yeah, minute up. You ain't got no answer. Even while I'm speaking right now, you may want to go online. Go call somebody. I don't know, but I can speed you up real quick. Every single religion we know of today, especially the major ones, are the direct reason for our oppression today. And I say that truthfully. I'm not dissing nobody's religion, but Islam enslaved us. Christianity enslaved us. Judaism enslaved us. Hinduism enslaved us. Okay? Buddhism even enslaved us. All of them have histories of killing our ancient people so that they can be what you see today. And this is no disrespect. This is history. This is real history. So if every major religion that we are looking at today is guilty of crimes against our humanity, where are they supposed to go to get salvation? I mean, the Christian faith alone, I mean, I could just single them out because we're living in the United States of America, and African Americans and Latinos well, mostly African Americans and Latinos and Native Americans in the United States are influenced by Christianity because Christians are the ones that enslaved us. I remember Son One said something the other day. We was talking about reparations and stuff like this. And I was talking about, I said America, the argument with reparations that America should be paying because America enslaved Africans. And Son One said to me, America didn't enslave Africans, Christians did. And then you start thinking like, wait, right. If you go with the 1619 Jamestown, Virginia story, there was no America. It was no America. Okay, they say the first 20 Africans getting off the slave ship, and here we are. There was no America. This was still English colonies, and dudes didn't even know what that was, really. There was no America. Who was doing the enslaving? The Puritans. Christians. So if we're going to keep it real with divinity and real spirituality, the entire Christian faith owes hip-hop a debt. And that debt is not just to us. The debt is not just, oh, we owe you a debt. No, if you truly believe in God, if God is your Savior, your salvation, how can you know that Christians enslaved our group, robbed our group, denied our group our birthright? We are the original Christians. How can you be a Christian knowing all that and never come to a hip-hopper and say, I'm sorry, on behalf of the entire Christian faith, I'm a Christian, and I understand what Christianity did. And I understand why you guys are in the situation you in and why you still in it in 2021. I beg for your forgiveness. And then hip hop comes out and says, you know what, you are forgiven. And we both rise to Christ. The one forgiving got salvation and sin removed. And the one giving the forgiveness has risen to a higher level of being. Hip-hop is the salvation of the world. If you are part of any religion on this planet, we're not asking that you get rid of your religion. That's not even our place. We're not even suggesting that you convert to hip-hop. That's not our place. But here is our place. We are innocent before God. Keep it real. We are innocent before all the gods of the earth. Yahweh, Allah, all of them, Brahma, you name it. We are innocent. Why? We are the victims. The victims are never guilty, no matter what they do. The victim is never guilty. It's the victor. The one who says, yes, I've conquered. We came in and we did. Yeah, that's the guilty one. So when you make hip hop your spirituality, not only do you join the only innocent spiritual path on earth, we are the only ones that are innocent, truly innocent, hands clean before God. Why? Because we're the victims. Now, of course, when we are no longer the victims, like when we buy land, when we get our schools up and our church and our hospitals and all of this type of stuff, when we get our temple up in that way, then we are no longer innocent, and we better follow our own laws. We better follow the laws that God set down for us. because we're going to wind up just like everybody else. And then there'll be another group that God will choose and say, can you save these people on my behalf? Because I gave them the truth and they squandered it. Can you help me? This is where we are right now with hip hop. This is where we are with hip hop and the salvation of the world. Now I want to move on to something else here. I'm going to go through a few announcements, but they're not just announcements, they're also part of our teaching here today. And we're teaching about the salvation of the world, hip hop as the salvation of the world. And I'm giving you real examples. They're examples, but they're real. They're real. And you should take it real. You're part of something very special. Very special. And you should not squander it. You should not understand what's actually going on. So the temple of hip hop rises. We come on the will of God. God wanted us to exist. That's the only way we are existing. And so here we are. And why does God want us to exist? Because we are the salvation of the world. It is up to us to forgive those that killed our parents. And really forgive it in your heart. That means the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners can sit down. That means the sons of Nazis and the sons of Jews can sit down. African Americans can sit down with the Klansmen. Native Americans can sit down with the Klansmen, with Andrew Jackson. If you can rise to the level of forgiveness, you've risen to the level of divinity. It's that simple. If you holding people back, oppressing them, shooting them, hanging them, there's no way you could call yourself God. There's no way anything spiritual is about you. You have to come to the true gods and ask for forgiveness and maybe even learn the way of true spirituality. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to find a towel. I'll come right back. Check this little boom bap out for a minute. We'll be right back. So, as I often teach within these lessons here, I make announcements that Hip Hop I make the announcement that Hip Hop Appreciation Week is May 7th. This year's Hip Hop Appreciation Week is May 17th to the 23rd, 2021. Hip Hop Appreciation Week is every third week in May. And we're coming up on our, the 20th anniversary of the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace, which was 2001, is what we'll be celebrating this year. The Hip Hop Declaration of Peace was put together by the Temple of Hip Hop, or led by the Temple of Hip Hop, because all types of people added to the document. Zulu Nation, Def Jam, many attorneys, icons, Kool Herc, and others. I'm not going to drop names here, but 300 hip hoppers, you can read about it in the Gospel of Hip Hop, came together to sanction this document, the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. And we did it 2001, May 16th, okay? Now we're coming up on 20 years of this document. And what's interesting, what you got to know, is that the spiritual world is often a setup. And people don't know this. that the spiritual world is often a setup, meaning that God has a way of making you think you winning when you not, and has a way of making you think you're losing when you actually winning. And to have the sight, to have this sight is to have opened one's eyes and to be able to move with divinity, where others go, oh, it's horrible, what's going on? You go, this is exactly what is needed. And while others are going, man, this is great, we doing it right now, you're like, time for me to get out of here. Because you operate on a different frequency. You operate on a different vibration. You can't be like everybody in the world. You are divine. And this is the hardest thing for divine people to understand, because they're surrounded by people who are not divine. That's how nature works. You know, the light comes into the darkness. It's not light with light. I often say, when you really realize the truth, when your eye opens and you see the truth, you don't see truth, you see lies and deception. Those are the English students or English teachers that know English. They know the words, they know punctuation, grammar, sentence structure, all of that. When you've mastered that, when you walk outside into society, all you see are errors. Okay, you see billboards, you be like, why did he put a period there? Or something with a semicolon that ain't supposed to be there. Misspelled words, misrepresented words. You see it. When you gain truth, you do not see truth. You see lies. You see deception. When you finally get a spirit of justice on you, what you see is injustice. So the spirit works like this. So whatever struggle you're going with or going through, whatever struggle you're going through right now, realize what a struggle is. It's a situation that reminds us God's grace lasts eternally. So you've survived the last struggle. You did. That means you're going to survive this one too. How many other struggles you had in your life that you thought you was going to die and you didn't? I mentioned this a while back as well. I'm just reiterating it right now because, again, you got to hear this over and over again for you to get it. And one day you're going to get it, if not now, if not today. If not today. So the setup is, we took the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace to the United Nations and presented it before the United Nations, actually, and hip hop, the community. And when we did that, people said, well, KRS is trying to put rules on hip hop. KRS wants to own hip hop, even though there's 300 other people there too. They said, KRS wants to own hip hop. And they went further to say, well, it's a good idea, but it's more like a publicity. It's more for publicity. And what I tried to explain to them is that revolution only works for those that participate in it. I'm giving you an opportunity for peace. But whether you follow the opportunity or not is irrelevant. I'm following it. This is what they missed. It's a setup. God don't care if you follow God's law. God is God's law. And those that follow God's law benefit from following God's law. So when we put the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace out 20 years ago, we were sharing our power with our community. Sharing it. Sharing our enlightenment with the community, that anybody who adopted this also adopted a covenant of peace. A covenant of peace. This also marked the beginning of our nation. If you want the official date of hip-hop's culture, it's May 16, 2001. And so I went on with the Temple of Hip Hop and everyone who was part of the Temple of Hip Hop from 2001, we went on following the ways of peace. We made the document, put it together with the help of everybody. And so we followed our document. We followed our document. Others said, I ain't doing that. I ain't part of that. I'm not getting down with that. I hope they're doing well today. I can say we are. I just ain't. Okay. So I hope you're doing well without peace, or you found some other peace. Okay. But the peace we established 20 years ago has been the peace for us for 20 years and 20 years beyond this now. Everything we said we were going to do, we did it. Everything, the conferences, the summits, the gatherings, everything when we gathered to talk about hip hop from 1987 to 2001, we did it. Now, we rest upon that heritage. So now we're coming up to 20 years on it, and it's been 20 years of peace. Of course, it's been some ups and downs and some moments here and there, but overall, it's been peace. It's been peace and prosperity, which is what we declared at the United Nations, peace and prosperity. We said hip-hop is a global culture of peace and prosperity. That's how we went out. That's what we did. But people thought that we was trying to say this to everybody. We want everybody got to know that they part of hip-hop, and it's part of hip-hop. Hip-hop is part of peace and prosperity. That wasn't what the mission was. The mission was, if you have the consciousness to adopt this, you saved your children, yourself, and your heritage. Many didn't save themselves. So Hip Hop Appreciation Week is May 17th to the 23rd, 2001. But May 16th, that Sunday before, is where we celebrate our 20th anniversary of the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. Now, why do I bring this up? Because, as a matter of fact, I had two other notes here. I just want to go straight into this other lecture. I'll bring these other two up later on. But right here, why do we bring this up? Why do I bring up the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace, Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 16, 2001? Because around 1994, let's say around 94, I think it was around 94, 95, I had a vision. And I know when they're visions because they're different from dreams. You know, dreams, you dream, and sometimes dreams are prophetic too. You get insight out of your dreams. But this was a vision. This is like, and you know it's a vision because it's like you're right now. It's like the same way everything looks just like this is the way the vision looks. Except you wake up and you go, oh, I was somewhere that was so real. It was realer than a dream. I had this vision around 1994 of a hip-hop city. And later on, I would call this city Hiphoppia. And it was inhabited by Hiphoppians. And here's how the vision went. I was walking. We had started walking from 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx all the way to a desert area, which I think was New Mexico, California, one of those desert areas. As I'm having this dream, this vision, what's happening is I already know, this is how you know it's a vision too, you already feel in the vision that we have purchased land in a desert area. And when we purchased the land in the desert area, we had started from 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, and we walked there. We walked. And it took us about 2 years to get there. We already had the land, we purchased the land, but the ritual was to walk across the United States to the land. And the vision was that I was walking and I was laughing and we were joking and we was walking, and there was thousands of people with us. Thousands of people with us. And there were politicians, there were FBI agents, there were doctors, there were other musicians, rappers, everybody, actors, and they wouldn't come for the whole walk. They would we were walking for 2 years, so some would join us and walk for a couple of miles with us and then go back to what they were doing. But the majority of the people that was with us wanted to walk with us into a new land, wanted to walk with us into a new hip-hop city. So even though at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, we started off with like 50 people. And then we started walking. We said our destination is going to be the deserts of New Mexico or California. So we're going to walk straight across the country to this desert area where we bought land. And as we began to walk, people joined our walk. Now, mind you, we're only walking about 10 miles a day. That's why it took 2 years, or even longer than that. Remember, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we would walk, stop in a town. We were giving concerts. We were lecturing, talking, every 10 miles. We would 10 miles. Sometimes we walked longer when we had the energy. Sometimes we walked shorter because of the weather. But we got there in 2 years. And in this 2-year walk, there were people who made films about it. There are people who wrote books about it. There are people who just found new life. People who were pregnant, women who were families who were pregnant and wanted their child to be born in the hip-hop city. They were all with us. Every race, every religion, every class of people were with us, because they all saw the vision of a new city of the arts in the United States. They all saw the vision. And so we walked to a new land called Hiphoppia, and we started our city beginning with our temple. And so we began to build the temple and began to teach our lessons, and the congregation became the actual hip-hop culture. The actual culture, not this whatever it is in your mind. We all say, yeah, hip-hop's a culture. I'm down with hip-hop as the culture, yeah, but that's all talk. When do we actually get to the land and we say, this is hip-hop culture? We are here now. So the vision was that we had bought land, about 100 acres. That's all, just 100 acres. And we started to build our temple on that 100 acres. And there were RVs and tents and other things until we built buildings and housing for our people. And the city began to spread. And corporations began to come in, not to corrupt. Because remember, the heads of the corporations are now hip-hop themselves. And they know what they should not be doing. We did that already. My fathers did that. My mothers did that. We're not doing that no more. I'm now the son, the daughter, who has grown up in hip-hop, and I just happen to be the head of McDonald's. I just happen to be the head of Coca-Cola. I just happen to be the head of Whole Foods. I just happen to be the head of Microsoft. I just happen to be, and these people came together seeing the vision and how it helps the United States. And let me peep this real quick too, okay? Hip-hop as a spiritual practice is the only religion that is American born. Marinate, think on it. America has produced no spirituality that is unique and indigenous to itself. The only spirituality that is indigenous to America is the gospel of hip-hop. This is the only one. This is it. Every other gospel is foreign to the United States. every gospel, is foreign to the United States. The only gospel that is indigenous to the United States is the gospel of hip hop. The only religion that America ever produced was hip hop. Period. Like I said, we're only dealing with truth. We're only dealing with evidence, and we're only dealing with facts. And when you deal with the evidence, the truth, and the facts, you start to see your divinity. And when you start to see your divinity, you start to become responsible for it. And when you become responsible for your divinity, now you're on the spiritual path. Now you're on a spiritual path. But dreaming about a white man in the sky or some Asian in a Buddhist position, sorry, that don't fly here. That don't fly here. What flies here is George Floyd. How is that spiritual? Let's talk that. Breonna Taylor, say her name. Okay, that is our spirituality. This is what we are looking at and measuring what is spiritual. Trayvon Martin. Now, let's take a look here. But see, none of these religions can speak to that. None of them. Because they're all guilty of that, with all due respect. I mean, not to call anybody out, okay? I'm not calling nobody out, but I'm speaking the truth, and I'm not going to bite my tongue. Why is the Pope not saying nothing about the abuse African Americans are dealing with in the United States? Why is the Pope not saying? The Pope is supposed to be the seat of God on earth. The Pope is sitting in Christ's seat, waiting for the only time the Pope is supposed to get up out that seat is when Jesus returns. So why is the Pope knowing? You see what's going on. The Vatican has so much power and control in this world. Why are they not saying nothing? And not no one or two little, oh, you shouldn't do that. No. Why is the Vatican not coming down on the White House? Coming down with God justice. Saying this is wrong, you better get your act together or God is going to get you. Why are they not saying that? See, these are the spiritual questions that hip-hop, see, the oppressed have different questions than the oppressor. And so these are the questions we asking. Look, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, where is he? Buddhism is all about justice. Buddhism is all about the middle way. Justice, balance. Buddhism is all about right thinking, right acting, right eating. They have a whole list of rights you're supposed to be dealing with. Nobody got nothing to say about us, right? Nothing. We just don't exist, right? We hip-hoppers just don't exist in their pantheon, in their vision of spirituality. The people call hip-hop, which they know exists. In fact, some young Buddhists are actually rapping and breaking in their Buddhist garb. They rapping and breaking. But they'll take our culture, take it into theirs, and care nothing for who they stole from. Hindus, Indians in India. Hip-hop is huge in India. Indians are rapping. But are they loyal to hip-hop or are they loyal to India? Indians, if you're hearing me, are you loyal to hip-hop or are you loyal to India and your culture? If your culture gonna come in and take from my culture and then do it any way you feel like it, how is that not theft? Here is a famous article. You can go online and read about it. How Cardi B, she did a picture of her as Shiva with a couple of arms and stuff, coming out of her. She caught so much flack from the Hindu community. Said, you can't do that to our God. See, when Cardi B went and took from their culture and brought it into our culture, they was offended. But they could just take our rap, take our breaking, take our graffiti art, take our beatboxing, our DJing, our beats, everything. They could just take it, put it in their culture, and everybody's cool with that. Well, God ain't. Justice ain't. Truth ain't. None of those principles are good with what is going on right now with hip-hop, how every other culture is taking from our culture and adding to their culture, but having nothing to say about our culture and the oppression we are feeling every day. Every day. So let's get this spirituality together. What am I talking about? We went to our own land. In the vision, we went to our own land, and Hindus were there, Buddhists were there, Jews were there, Muslims were there, Christians were there, atheists were there, Wiccans were there, Satanists were there. Everybody was there. Yoruba was there. Voodoo or Vodou was there. It had nothing to do with all these different, it's that we all realized the truth. And that started the walk across the United States. And as we started walking across the United States, we united as one people. And in about a 2-year period of walking across the United States, living homeless for 2 years, walking across the United States, we finally arrived at our destination. And there was a huge celebration, global celebration. And then we began to build our city right there. A city of the arts. A city that invites everyone. Even though it was hip-hop, it's a hip-hop city, but all the arts were invited. Every art, dance and all kinds of dance. Music and every kind of music. Art and every kind of art. Everything. Every creative form of self-expression was represented in our city. There was no crime in our city. There was no police in our city. Everybody got along because we realized this is our chance to start over. This is our chance. We could all forgive one another and now move forward with our children with a bright new future. So this was the vision. This was the vision and is the vision. I bring it up to you because I'm now beginning to see, coming around the 20th anniversary of the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace, I'm now beginning to see the vision come into fruition. All of a sudden now we're looking, land is cheap. When I first had the vision, I told Simone, she was right there, I woke up, yo, let's check out what I just went through. And Simone immediately went online back then, and it wasn't even a good online. We talking like the late 90s, okay? It was crazy, okay? Remember AOL? Anyway, Simone went online, and she found towns in the United States that were for sale. And I didn't even realize this. It was a vision that came, and I said, yo, I had this vision. Simone then said, let me look at what land can we actually get? And then she started looking up cities that were for sale, towns actually, for sale. One of which was in North Dakota somewhere for $1.3 million. You could buy the whole town. But I wasn't ready. This was in the 90s. My people weren't even ready. I brought it up to a few people. They thought I was crazy. That was too big, Chris, you crazy. You always coming up with some crazy. But I was serious. And I started to make the preparations for our new city that brings us to May 16th, 2001, Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. We had to establish that first. We established our Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. We were recognized by government, religions of all sorts, science of all sorts, and community activists of all sorts. We were recognized by all. Now, we had to wait until our community grew up. And that's what the Gospel of Hip Hop speaks about actually. The gospel speaks about how this book, when it was actually published in 2009, it actually says that the knowledge in this book is not for my generation. It's not for us now. If you could get it now, get it. But really, this book was written for my grandchildren, because that's who's going to see the vision. People in my generation, they blind, they can't see it. And you can see how they can't see it. You can see now, you can see. We all in our 50s now, some of us even in our 60s. Now, we still can't see the vision of hip hop as a global community. Still arguing against hip hop as a spiritual path. We're still doing that. Still. So this book was written, and the ideas of it was written not for our generation, not even for my daughter's generation. It was written for her daughter's generation, which is what we're coming up on right now. Right now. My children are beginning to have children, and it's their children that are going to be the hip hop nation. It's their children, our grandchildren, if you're my age, our grandchildren. They're going to see this as something that should have already happened. To them, it's going to be no big deal. They're going to say, oh yeah, right, Hip Hop City, what's the big deal? Let's go get the shovel and start doing it. But our group, we can't see it. We got to still fight it with each other, compete with each other, say, oh no, I don't want to see it. Okay, I hope you're at peace. But as the mission continues, what we find is that if you are not a friend to your future self, you're an enemy to your future self. The question becomes, who will you be in the next 5 years? Who will you be in just the next 5 days? You see, only you can protect you. You are your own guardian angel. The future you is the guardian of you. And you now are the guardian of your future self. If you don't make the right moves today, the future you is going to suffer. That's why I'm in this fast moment right now. You know, those that know, been studying with us, you know I'm on a fast right now. I'm rising with the sun right now. And so, just from a personal point of view, this is what I want to give to my future self. I could give my future self, I could drop 10 pounds for my future self. I could clear my intestines and drink some even more water and pop a few more vitamins. I could give my future self that. I could jog and give my future self that jog. But if I sit and continuously eat the ice cream, continuously just indulge myself in all the pleasures that are afforded me, I'm not being a friend to my future self. Be a friend to your future self. Ponder on these right now. Ponder on what I just said. Hip hop as a nation, the building of our land, the vision of walking across the United States as a historical walk too, by the way. You know that'll go down in history if thousands of people walked across the United States in peace to a new land, building a city of the arts. We change America's history at that moment. Are you part of that movement? Because that's what the Temple of Hip Hop is all about. Are you part of that forgiving movement where you can really look at the one who transgressed you and say, you are forgiven because I'm moving on? If you transgress somebody, can you perform the superhuman act of apologizing? Can you do it? This is what our spirituality is about. No joking game. Hip hop is the only American-born spiritual path, and it matches what America needs, not what other nations need. What America needs. Here's what America needs. America needs forgiveness, and forgiveness from the ones it transgressed. That can only be hip hop. There is no other urban group that has the moral authority to forgive all religions and governments than hip-hop. I'll be right back. Yes, welcome back again. What we are dealing with, as you can see, is not only the divinity of hip-hop, but also what it takes to be part of that divinity. We're talking about hip-hop and its new city. It's called Hiphoppia, at least that's the working title, Hiphoppia. And Hiphoppia because it's the state of hip-hop that we are in, the mental state and the political state of hip-hop that we are in. You know, the idea, as I mention often, I'll say it again, that we often hear people talk about, my ancestors was civilization builders. My ancestors built pyramids. My ancestors built Stonehenge. My ancestors built Teotihuacan. My ancestors, but we all sitting here today, we can't even build a hut for us today. And this is what brings down the integrity of our ancestors. How can we say from an African-American point of view, we say our ancestors built the pyramids, but now today we renting houses. Never do we think about, well, if our ancestors built houses and are the originators of civilization itself, why are we not building temples, houses, government buildings for ourselves today and announcing civilization in our time? It comes down to character. It comes down to no talk and belief. But what is your character responding to? You see, it's not about the money, okay? It's not about the money. The money is an agreement. It's a commitment. It's a symbol of your commitment. With this city, we need to raise about 100 grand. We need to raise about 100 grand. And really more than that, we really probably need to raise about $1 million, to be honest with you. We probably need about $1 million. But let's just start with the first 100 grand. Cities are getting built with just 100 acres. That's why I say 100 grand. City land is being sold right now. You know, land in the United States is being sold right now for $1,000 an acre in places that we want to go, like the desert and places like this. $1,000 an acre. Now, as a temple for hip hop, there's about 30 to 60 people on this call. We can't get 30 people to come up with 100 grand. This is what I'm talking about. This is the character. I'm not asking you for your money. Ain't nobody here asking you for your money. This is not some donation hat we pushing. But what exactly is your commitment? Are you just sitting here watching KRS-ONE speak, edutaining you? Is that all it is for you? Or are you really part of the community of civilization builders ready to put your money, your strength, your ideas down on this idea, on this vision? This is the question. And you'll notice that it's always the people who are with you going, yes, Lord, that when it's really time to really do something, they know where around. Is that you? Is that you? Who's going to watch me talk and do nothing? Well, that's why I'm talking, to put you under that pressure. When are we really going to be hip-hop? When are we really going to bring our ancestors into the present? When are we really going to free ourselves from the oppression we know we all under? Well, that's what the Hip-Hop City is about. And I'm looking at a fundraising campaign that includes other rappers and executives and so on, those that want to contribute. But we're also looking at crowdfunding as well. Because it's not just about the money that's being put in. A crowdfunding situation means there's a group of people that want to see this happen. Because it's not just about putting money down for one time. This is an ongoing thing. And if you can't really get down, if you can't really do it, if you can't really be part of that, then so be it. There's no hard feelings. There's nothing. But just recognize the truth. You're not a civilization builder. That's all. That's all. Not me. Me? I'm a civilization builder. Period. That's what May 16, 2001 was about. Building civilization. 20 years later, coming up on our anniversary, now our grandchildren are beginning to see the vision. And now we go get our land, we build our temple on that land, and then build housing structures around the temple representing our new city. And then we build out from there and grow from there. Why can't we do this for ourselves? Well, because of immaturity, no trust, no brotherhood, sisterhood, no union. And remember, it don't take a whole lot of people to do this. So if you're one of the people that are listening to me and have no intentions of doing anything, I appreciate your time here today. Maybe in the future you'll get it, maybe not, I don't know. But you won't be able to go with us to that next level. We're going to get our land and build our city. That's going to happen. That's why I'm saying it to you. But real talk, it's going to be up to you. You're going to determine whether you participate in that city or not. I want to talk also about some other money issues as well. Since we're on the topic of money and crowdfunding and stuff like this, let me bring it really home here to the Temple of Hip Hop and bring my talk to a close. Right now, we are dealing with, we're redoing the history of hip-hop. Not even redoing, we're updating, I should say, our history of hip-hop. Every 10 years, we take a look at what we believe to be the history of hip-hop. And we re-ask the pioneers, what is the beginning? What is it? You know, we ask the pioneers, but we also ask modern hip-hoppers for their story. And of course, there's a lot of young kids out right now claiming real hip-hop. Of course, a lot of corny kids out here. You already know what it is. But there are those who are serious about hip-hop in its cultural sense. Young people who are serious about hip-hop in its cultural sense. They want to continue the tradition. And I meet them all the time. They want to continue it. These people, when we really start talking about young people and hip-hop, and I'm going to get back to the crowdfunding in a minute on this. But when we start talking about young people and hip-hop, what we're talking about again is character. And I will just deviate here for a minute. I'll get back to the Hip-Hop City and crowdfunding in a minute. But I have to say this about young people real quick. Son One and I was having a conversation about how many elders are dissing the young people. And that's been going on. People dissing the music that's out today. The argument is deep on both sides, because in one breath you listen to the radio today and what they call in hip hop, you know is not hip hop. And the young kids today are just acting like they don't care. I don't care. I'm just doing my thing, and don't realize they're throwing away their own heritage. You know, these corporate people, they love when you say you don't care about your father's heritage, because that means they could take it from you. Young people don't know that. They haven't lived long enough. to realize what the game is. And of course, all young people think they know the game until they get trapped by it. And now it's sorrow. That's one side of the story. The other side of the story is now you got these old heads who are dissing young people. I mean, you know, in the beginning we said, we want you to be original. Don't bite, don't be a biter, be original. Then the young people come out and they are original. Their art sounds nothing like ours. And now we're dissing. So which is it? Do we want our children to be original and think for themselves? Or do we want them to just follow what we did? Well, see, there has to be a balance in between the two, because most are going to just do what they got to do and just steal from the culture and then go ahead and do what they got to do. That's most people. But there's a small group of young people that understand exactly what I'm saying right now, and the need to keep the heritage going. And that they will be empowered by that too, by the way. But these old heads who have already heard me speak for 30 years have done nothing for this culture. Nothing. They heard the concerns. They seen the summits, the conferences, everything we put together. They heard it. They saw it. And they shirked it off. Your grandfather, your grandmother now, the one doubled over in a cane, talking about, I'm an elder. They're a sellout. Traitors. You ain't supposed to just honor old people because they old. Honor your elders. No, I'm an elder right now. You ain't supposed to honor me just because I'm 55. That's stupid. If you have any respect for me, it has to be because of my character. It has to be because of what I actually did, not because of what I spoke about. What actually happened. I have to earn the respect of young people. Earn it. And likewise, they have to earn the respect of their parents. And if we both seek to earn each other's respect, now we are unstoppable. Because a 60-year-old that can think like a 20-year-old lives forever. A 20-year-old that can think like a 60-year-old lives forever. But if you 60, stuck at 60, it got to go the way I see it at 60. This is the way I saw it. You ain't going nowhere. There's no room for innovation. You're not developing. And then if you a youngin' saying, I know what it is already, I ain't got to do that, you lost your whole heritage. You'll be a slave in 5 minutes. Because you got no heritage, no tradition, no elder, no family, no community. You just want to be by yourself with your cell phone. Okay. You know, we're recording this right now. And so this will be out forever. Okay. Mark my words here today. Civilization is not technology. As I'm preaching and teaching you to you today, civilization is an advanced stage in social interactions. Technology is the science of mechanical and industrial arts. They are not the same. Technology is tool making. Civilization, high levels of cooperation amongst humanity. We beating, robbing, competing with one another, putting a gun to one another. We're not civilized. And that's how these governments get us. The minute we start cooperating, we become civilized and nothing can happen to you. All governments kneel to a united people. All kneel to a united people. When are we going to unite as hip-hoppers? And now that brings us back to the money. Because we're not asking for no money. We're asking for unity of thought. Unity of thought may include money, but unity of thought is way larger than a little money or a bank loan. Unity of thought is that we all see the vision and we're moving toward it. So while we're on this note of money, let me talk about a few things that's right here with us. Let me bring it right here with us. And what's right here with us is that right now, the Temple of Hip Hop has carved off about a $3,000 budget. We got this $3,000 budget from your membership, which is why I'm bringing this up. Those active members that pay their dues to the Temple of Hip Hop, their membership dues, the active members who do give money to the Temple of Hip Hop, well, we've accumulated about $3,000, really more than that, but we've carved off a budget of $3,000 out of a total allotment. We carved off about $3,000. And what I'd like to ask you here is, well, let me say this first. Every 10 years, we redo the history of hip hop. We look at it again. We ask the pioneers what they're dealing with. We bring new history in. Every 10 years, we take a look at the history of hip hop. So we're coming up on our 10th year again, the 20th anniversary, with another 10-year period, 2021. We're coming up on a 10-year period. So I want to interview Kool Herc. Kool Herc has no DVD that explains his life and how hip hop started. He has no book, no definitive book. Now, besides that, we're redoing or updating our knowledge of hip hop's history. So I'd like to take some of this money and interview certain people, one of which is Kool Herc. Now, let me be really real with you on this. Kool Herc alone will probably cost $3,000 to get the full interview out of him. He might need $3,000 to get the full interview out of him. In truth, I will pay the $3,000 to Kool Herc to get the interview out of him. But if we are a temple working together, and you guys have already pitched in, the question becomes, who should we be interviewing? Meaning, let me break you down. We have, say, $3,000 budget. Now, to get just say, let's pick 10 hip-hop icons. And not just, let's pick 5 old-school hip-hop icon heads and 5 modern-day hip-hop heads that we think exemplifies the culture today. Okay? So we pick 5 of the old heads and 5 of the new heads, young heads. That's 10 interviews we need. Now, if we give each interviewer $300 as an honorarium, it's not payment, it's just an honorarium for your time. Car fare, something to eat, whatever, haircut, $300 for your time. If we can give 10 people $300, that's our $3,000. So I'm asking the Temple of Hip Hop right now, what 10 people should we be interviewing? Think of 5 old school heads that we need to ask specific questions. And think of 5 modern day rappers that today representing hip hop today. Young kids today that need to be put into the history. What 5 of them, what 5 young MCs today is that needs to be put into the history of hip hop? What 5 heads is this? Now I'm asking the Temple this because this is your homework, okay? This is what we need. We're going to take $3,000 of our membership dues because this is how it should be. Like I said to you, I will pay for all of this to happen, regardless. It's going to happen. We're just going to pay for it and keep it moving. That's what we've been doing. But that's not a temple. That's not a group decision. The group decision is, let us all send in information saying, I think this guy should be interviewed. I think this guy should be interviewed. I think this woman should be interviewed. I think this group should be interviewed. And we take in the responses and talk them down in our next session. Why this one? Why that one? We come out with 10 people. 5 from the old, 5 from the new, and we say we're going to give $300 to each interview to get the interview done. Who should be that interview? Who should get the $300 honorarium to get their story? Whose story do we want to know? Matter of fact, let me even go deeper. Whose story pushes hip-hop's culture forward? What is the continuation from 2011 to now? This 10-year period, who exemplified hip-hop from 2011 to now, to 2021? Now, if you want to partake in this, especially if you're one of the active members that are actually putting your money forward, you got to answer this question because we're spending your money. So you got to be part of this. Send your comments to templeofhiphop@thetempleofhiphop.org. That's templeofhiphop@thetempleofhiphop.org. Send your statements and your comments in right there. I mention this because, like I said, it's not about the money, but it is. Like I said, we have the money to do what we got to do, but that's not a temple. That's not raising up our group to cooperate with one another. And that's what civilization versus technology is all about. It's not just about you and your phone. It's also about you, your phone, and your community. So if you could see your community, participate in the development of your community. Don't just sit here and watch me talk. Those of you that are not participating financially with the Temple of Hip Hop, think about it though. There's no obligation for you to send no money here. There's no obligation. But some of us are sending our money forward and we're proud of it. And it's that money that should be used to gather the information that's going to strengthen our temple. So it's not about if KRS got the money, just pay. It ain't even about me going to Jay-Z or 50 or Shaquille O'Neal or Eminem or whoever, Snoop, whoever. Somebody, those who you think got money. It ain't about that. I would prefer Snoop Dogg's prayers than his money. I'd prefer Jay-Z come with a solid idea. Yo, the city should be planned out like this than any money. But if we walking around talking about we ballers and we bosses and we in Fortune 500 magazine, how we don't have the city? And this is just truth. So I'm bringing us together for a common cause. And the common cause is that hip hop needs its own space. And it's time for us to go get it. It's called Hiphoppia, the hip hop city. I want to thank you for listening to me today. I'm going to slide off and let Son One take over from here. Take us out, actually, with a short outro. He's going to take us out. Thank you for listening today. I'll see you again next week, Sunday. And we have a special treat for you next week, Sunday. We're not going to do too much talking. I feel as though that because I've done a whole lot of talking and teaching and, we talked about the books and so on, I think we're going to give a small concert next week. Next week, we're going to break you off with raw rhymes and live performance. Make sure you're there for that. I'm going to advertise it as well to the rest of like my Instagram and other places on YouTube and Facebook and stuff, and we'll probably get a big audience for the concert. But I'm really presenting the concert to you guys, those who have studied with us and have really partake in the readings and what we're doing. Let's take a break, next week and just enjoy some raw rhymes and some concert and some musical, musical existence. Let's look at our musical existence. Let's not get away from the arts, just talking about the arts, talking about the culture without really expressing the existence of the culture. That's done with concert, it's done with art, it's done with dancing, it's done with having a good time with your own self-expression. We'll be dealing with that next week. Thanks for listening. Son One, you're up now.
I gotta make it happen. I'm an MC, most niggas think I'm rapping. I set niggas free, these other niggas trapping. I'm breaking in the cypher, they still tippy tapping. I'm here to get it right, they got it all wrong. I shine to give you light, they turning lights off. Son one, you won't forget that name. The plight of the ancestors, I spit that pain. I'm a wild boy, no I won't be tamed. Fucking savage when I grab it, have them go insane. My niggas, rather niggas niggas. Don't be a fucking boy, still fuck these cops. Hip hoppers, no it's not just black. One name hip hop, come back like that. Pick it up, nigga, get that call. It's the temple of hip hop, son. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, we all eat hip hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip hop. One nation, we all eat hip hop. If you wanna be a slave for the rest of your days, you can stay. Yes, it's okay. I know niggas afraid to say what we say, scared of losing they pay. I'm just like, hey, we need those who feel in their soul. Life is worth more than gold and diamonds in trade. So for those ready to go who know this getting old, no control, let's be on our way. My nigga, nah me. I hope you know we got hit with the okie doke, the rope of dope, smoke out choking, slow token blow, while promoting vote, provoking racist hope. You know, this is all they know, we know better. If we could come together, we would last forever. Create the rawest civilization they ever saw. Sovereign hip hoppers. One nation, one people. I am Minister Son One. For those who have their gospel of hip-hop, please turn to page 648, paragraph 22, in the 17th overstanding the Temple of Hip-Hop. Like our society, our nation is not a physical place. Yes, we shall establish a physical landmass for our nation. But in reality, our nation is an attitude, a behavior, a collective consciousness that transcends race, religion, nationality, and economic class. The borders of our nation are psychological. We limit ourselves to the title of hip-hop or hip-hop so that we may recognize each other by name and nature. I want to try to make this even realer for you. What's currently at hand is an opportunity to really show your commitment, your dedication, what you're willing to invest in your children's future, in humanity's future, in God's future. Hiphoppia, hip-hop's cities. They are not going to build themselves. It is going to take at least a few dedicated hip-hoppers for this to manifest. Again, you should try not to look at it as though, I don't want to say that you're not needed in order to do it, but you should be looking at this as an opportunity. Again, to not let history just pass you by. Hiphoppia will be a reality. And why is it going to be a reality? Because, again, the borders of our nation are technically psychological. We're in Hiphoppia right now. But it's time to concentrate that reality to a specific place. Or at least the opportunity has presented itself to us. The future will look back on this time and be able to reflect on whether or not hip-hop was actually ready, whether hip-hop was actually unified. And as we know, the whole of us that are claiming to be hip-hop aren't necessarily unified. We have the opportunity to change that or initiate our unification. In order to make this real, I researched just a couple of places, really mainly in Arizona and California, just to give a few real examples of what's possible and what's available at this very moment. Villa de la Mina, Texas, USA, $1.8 million. I made sure that that USA stayed there purposely because there are places all over the world. And we plan on having hip-hop cities all over the world. We'll start here. It's not a Jim Jones situation where we're going to another country so that your families and everybody can say that we've had you join a cult or something silly like that. Again, we're doing this for all of hip-hop and really all of humanity itself, to be able to present an example of how everywhere could and or should actually be. Let us read. Nestled near Big Bend National Park in West Texas, shout out to Mrs. Zinneru, the 62-acre town of Villa de la Mina includes a large mine and comes complete with a railroad track, a slice of Wild West nostalgia. Cinnabar, a blood red mercury sulfide mineral, was mined here in the early 1900s. Somebody actually bought this in hopes of building it up, and unfortunately, they just weren't successful. Built at the start of the 20th century, during the boom time of cinnabar mining, the town was constructed from local rock and handmade bricks. Local rock and handmade bricks. The sale, which has its very own website, includes 20 buildings, ranging from a jail, horse stables, cabins, and a bandstand to a 2-story hotel. You can see the Pepsi. You can see the Pepsi machine right here. So you can see fairly recently they tried to get this jump started again. But unfortunately they just didn't. But I like this picture purposefully because it shows that clearly already there's some type of foundation of electricity and plumbing. So this is something that you could come into now. Of course, things may need to be replaced from lack of use and whatnot. But either way, here, it's not just barren land. There's actually structures and foundations of which to build upon. Johnsonville, Connecticut. I brought this up because it's important for those who have been with the Temple of Hip Hop to remember, and those who are just joining us now, that leading up to 2012, our TEACHA in several lectures kept presenting the hip hop city, trying to see if hip hop was actually ready. And it seemed as though once the idea of building your own city, governing yourself, no police, and having your own currency, the room would go flat silent. Because people were afraid. They really haven't heard anything like this from anyone, really. Hip Hop City is an original idea that it sounds wonderful, and of course everybody would love to see it, love to go to it, but to actually build it seems to be where the fear sinks in and the worry, as if, I would imagine as if they're not going to survive or get in trouble by the government. Oh, excuse me, hold on one second. Let me read this. Founded in 1802, this former mill town and tourist hotspot was all but abandoned by the mid-1990s. In a bid to rescue this peaceful community and reopen its shuttered buildings, an independent church acquired the ghost town this past July for roughly $1.9 million. And as you can see, that light is on. This town has several buildings, and really is just, it literally is a town, paved roads, and it was just abandoned, or people just left it. Now, this was available back in 2012, or it was available right up until last July. Now, clearly, the only reason why hip-hop doesn't have this is because hip-hoppers have not unified. This seems to be the hurdle that we need to get over. That if we could unify, an independent church acquired the town. And again, very likely they got a loan. Very likely they paid about 20% down. So don't let these numbers scare you. Even though I would say there are more than 1 million hip-hoppers throughout the world. We would only need $2 from each hip-hopper. And we already know there are millions of hip-hoppers, so if we actually got the dollars, or the $2, we would get way more than just $1.9 million. Henry River Mill Village, North Carolina. If the eerily quiet, tree-lined streets of this Carolina town look familiar, it's because the formerly abandoned community served as the location of Katniss Everdeen's home in the Hunger Games film franchise. But fame comes at a cost, specifically $1.4 million. The 72-acre town's current asking price. 72 acres. No. Started with 62 for 1.8. now we get here 72, 1.4. Again, paved roads, buildings. Of course, they need work, refurbishing, all the above. Foundation. California Valley, California, 1.4 million. The unincorporated community of California Valley, found in the east of San Luis Obispo County, is something of a forgotten gem. According to the listing, this tiny hidden town is the only commercial site in the breathtaking Carrizo Plain National Monument, the largest area of native grassland remaining in California, making it a rather unique investment opportunity. Mind you, we already have, or TEACHA has expressed already, that no matter where we go in the United States, that it's only right to make sure that we have the blessing of the Native Americans who really rightfully own the land. On the market for 1.4 million, with the California Serengeti Corporation via LoopNet, the rural town encompasses 8.7 developed acres, while an additional 31 acres of agricultural land surrounding the settlement are also included in the price tag. So again, you have 8.7 developed acres. There's already a place for sale, 1.4 million, and 31 acres of agricultural land to work the land. $1.4 million. Bridgeville, California, stretching 83 acres, and of course you guys can look up and Google these places yourself. Stretching 83 acres, the hamlet did undergo some much needed renovations in the early 2000s. When Carl carried out infrastructure repairs and demolished the rundown grocery store, while Carl's dreams of transforming the neglected community into an upmarket health retreat never came to fruition, there's still potential in this charming small town idyll. This is the guy selling it, just so that you know, but I wanted you to take a look. Power lines, streets, this is already happening. $1.5 million. As well as the substantial acreage, the sale price includes a number of homes and cabins, a 150-year-old post office, a vacant cafe, and a cemetery. While not included in the lot, Bridgeville Elementary School is located on the outskirts of the town. So this rural spot has the bones to be a vibrant family community once more. Which would be wonderful. And clearly we would have our own schools, teaching our own knowledge. Now, I brought these up because in my research I found out that, and you can look this up as well, that actually Egypt, they're planning on moving their capital to a brand new city themselves. They're looking at building a city, and if my memory serves me correct, they're actually looking at building a city on, I want to say it was around 38,000 acres. So just to keep in mind what a city really is, and also keep in mind that there is no difference between a city and a town. A city is a town and a town is a city. Right here we have in Tupac, shout out to Tupac, not Tupac, but Tupac, Arizona, Santa Cruz County. 1,872 acres. $9,250,000. Already has a temple, in my mind. But this is pretty much it. And then you have, or I think it may have some cabins as well, barns and stables and whatnot. But 1,872 acres. Another place in Tupac, Arizona, I wanted to show you at Barron, where, nope, we start fresh. We don't want your buildings. We don't want nothing. We just want the land. Of course, you have to have the land surveyed. Make sure that it is available to have irrigation, plumbing, electricity, and all that. And also, you got to make sure that the lands aren't protected. So, either way, 36 acres, still very large area, $55,000. It's very low, very achievable. We just really have to have our plans right in order to get it, because you got to pay taxes on the land after you buy it, and it's taxes on the full amount, so, or the value of the land even. It may be worth more than just that $55,000 that people are trying to sell it for. Again, you ask, or why may it be so low? Because it may be, there's no Walmarts around here, there's no McDonald's. There's none of that, and so and very likely no major highways. Not for sure about that, but this is these are several reasons why land costs in different variations. Right here, Patagonia, Arizona, Santa Cruz County, still $7 million. For 21,660 acres, and you get a temple. You get to start off with a temple house at least, and it's got barns and stables and all that good stuff. 21,000, and again, you see the price is going down. A lot more acres. $19,925 acres, $3 million. Again, price way down, kind of similar to the 20, right? The 21. $3,750,000. Again, start off with a little temple, couple of cabins, barns. I even believe this is already a working, or several of these already have working farms in process, and if I'm not mistaken, they just sell it all to you. That's in Elgin or Elgin, Arizona. More acres, again lower price, $2,900,000, 58,561 acres. We would have a bigger city than the capital of Egypt, or Kemet, if you could imagine that. Williams, Arizona. Again, you get a little start off. This pretty much speaks for itself. I just wanted to show everybody group economics based on about the price of $100,000. 20% of $100,000 is $20,000. We normally have about 50 to 60 people. So $20,000 divided by 60 people would be $3,333.33. And again, we have millions of hip-hoppers, which I'm sure would contribute throughout the world. But keeping our dependence on just us, because we're the ones who know, this is what it would cost to start, mind you. 12 months, if we took a year to do this, it would be $277.77 a month per person out of 60 people. And interesting how that 3,333 is just like our the current temple dues being paid, which ends up being $3.33 a day. So again, further breaking it down, 4 weeks in a month, $69.44 per week, essentially $70. Now down to the day, $9.92. Again, out of 60 people. That's all we would need a day in order to have our down payment for $100,000. Now, of course, what I showed you is a lot larger than that. But again, there's a lot of planning, city planning. Shout out to the TEACHA and Hip Hop Lives, talking to developers about the city we plan in. We come back. This is what it is, you guys. It's not a far reach, but again, you have to be ready. You have to have courage to do this and have courage for the future, really, of all people, to say that no, we should be sovereign. We should have our own city. We should have our own laws, which we abide by, and live as we're supposed to live. Won't beat you over the head too much about this. Just really want you to meditate on this and keep this in mind, that this is a very real possibility, and the faster that you're ready to unite, the faster that Hiphoppia actually becomes a reality. Again, the Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop ministry, archive, school, and society. A preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. We believe in preserving hip hop. We have a unique way and approach to preserving hip hop. We believe that in order to preserve hip hop, we must preserve the actual hip hoppers themselves. And the best way to do that in a world that is oppressing, enslaving, mistreating, misusing, murdering, poisoning, that Hiphoppia is really the inevitable conclusion that we would have to come to somewhere. I'd like to thank our teacher, KRS-ONE,
for giving us the opportunity, for being our teacher, for being our leader, to guide us into the direction of God. Peace and much love to you all.
You know, this is all they know. We know better. If we could come together, we would last forever. Create the rawest civilization you ever saw. Sovereign hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, we all eat hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, we all eat hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, we all equal. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, young peep, hip-hop. One nation, hop, we all equal.